Alright, so normally we're going to pull this single screw side plate adjuster out and then turn, but I noticed that I was having some difficulty getting it off. And here's a bush fix. I'm guessing that this side plate was not holding, and somebody went and tapped a screw into the side plate rim. I'm going to have to remember this. I'm wondering if there's a stud that broke off of the side plate or what, but whatever. Somebody put a fail-safe in here, tapped a hole and drilled into the side plate, I guess, tapped it in, and that's what was preventing me from trying to take this out easily. So now it came off, and we have 1, 2, that's exactly what happened here. That third piece, you should have 3 studs on this one. 1, 2, and 3. We don't have a stud here. That looks like that was drilled into and tapped to replace that stud. So there you go. Well, whatever was done here is not correct, because the side plate itself is the piece of the issue in the reassembly. And just take this piece off as well. Just want to make sure that he did what was right. Now, Tim told me that apologies to all, but he did not use fishing reel grease here, so we're going to try and clean that out. He used the grease that was on his workbench, and I recommend that you use fishing reel grease. It's designed for fishing reels. It will help perform better. I use a Penn precision reel grease, not because this is a Penn reel, but because it's a fishing reel grease. I use it almost all of the reels that I work on. Recommend that you find a fishing reel grease as opposed to a general purpose grease. I found everything inside these reels, not this one in particular, but I found everything imaginable that had the word grease on it, except bacon grease. I don't think I found bacon grease, but you get the idea. All right, let's take this off, find out what went wrong on the reassembly of this reel. This is an older reel. I'm not sure if this one has the flat spring or if it has the coil spring for the anti-reverse. I did notice as I was trying to break off the side plate that the anti-reverse was not working properly, so that would be the cause of the issue right there. So I don't fault anybody for trying to do the repair. That's why this channel has been established. Sometimes I get a comment or a question every now and then, don't you get tired of working on other people's problems? Well, no. I think proper maintenance doesn't cause the problems, but I don't give demerits for somebody trying to service their reel. That's the right idea. I once had a mechanic, I was trying to service a piece of a car, brought the piece in, and it was in pieces, just like some of the reel in the bag projects that I get. And the mechanic kind of had this attitude towards him, which I still remember to this day, and it's a long time ago. Something to the effect of, "Oh, you broke the eggs and now you want me to scramble them?" Something to that effect. Well, that kind of put a sour taste in my mouth. I thought they were there to help, and I've learned from that experience. So if you have a reel in a bag project, 1, I give you credit for trying. 2, I'll try to get it back together for you if you have an issue and you just can't seem to solve it. So we're getting that old grease out of here at the moment. I'm going to check. Tim said he bought this reel new, so I'm not sure. I mean, to me, the dating on this with the flat spring was replaced in 1957 by coil springs on most editions of the reels, so that flat spring is there. I think that maybe, just maybe, it wasn't new at the time. I don't know. I'll have to talk to Tim, find out a little bit more. I'm checking the gears now. I just want to make sure that if he did grease these, that they don't have any old grease which could become detrimental to performance. That one's okay. This one doesn't look like he got into the drag service very much, because there's a whole pile of old stuff on this one. And I think it's probably going to be time to upgrade these drag washers. We'll see. So he has the old leather washers in there. And they happen to be okay. So you can tell if a washer is okay, the leather washers, if they flex. So if you're able to move a drag washer like this and it doesn't crack, it's okay. The whole key to these is that you want to keep them flexible. And again, this one is working pretty good there. So I wouldn't worry too much about those. Again, I want to get all that old grease out of the main gear. I'll go ahead and do that right now. I'm just going to use a hard brush. If you don't have one of these, go ahead and use a toothbrush or any kind of little brush. You can also use a pick. I have these picks. These are in dollar stores. You can just kind of go get one of these and just clear the channel with the point of the pick. You can use a little safety pin or anything if you want. It doesn't have to be a fancy tool in order to get that stuff out. All right, well, we did that. Got a lot of junk on here, so let's go ahead and take the gear shaft off as well. I guess it's called a gear sleeve. You can generally poke it through with that pick, so that pick has more than one use. That pin comes out. You can see the pin here. I'm just going to reinsert it so I don't lose it. And we want to clean up all of the stuff that's on the shaft as well. You can usually wipe this off with a paper towel. If you find that you have some stubborn grease on there, go ahead and use something a little bit more aggressive like the kitchen scrubby pad, or in this case, this is 4-0 steel wool. And when you take that off and notice that there's a lot of junk on the shaft, make sure you go in there with a cotton swab on the inside and get the old stuff out of there as well. All right, we're pretty good. Just a little bit on the top here. So let's go ahead and put this back together then. We're going to take that gear sleeve, take the bridge shaft, light greasing onto the shaft. That pin is in the way. I put it in a little bit too far. Now we're back. Push the pin back in now. I probably neglected to show. This slot right here is where that pin is going to fit. So just go ahead and make sure you're properly seated. If you're having any resistance on that pin at all, you might try a pliers or a little bit of an assist there. You have the hard washer there. That is fine. That doesn't require lubrication. We're going to go ahead and get a good amount of grease onto the main gear. So if you like these kinds of videos, if you like working on fishing reels, if you like learning about fishing reels, if you have one that you're trying to service and you want to see how it's done, well then I would encourage you to subscribe. And if you do subscribe, please hit the notification button. That way you'll see when I post videos. I post all kinds of videos, and that'll help you. Putting a little bit of grease. In this case, I'm using Cal's drag grease. You don't have to use that. If you don't have the drag grease, use your fishing reel grease. And again, this is to keep these flexible. Make sure that your metal drag washers are clean. If there's any debris on there, get it off. The reason for that is it'll just scar the softer leather drag washers here. You could upgrade these, but there's no need to. They don't show the wear, and after all of these years, they maintain their flexibility and performance, and no need to go out and do that. I get questions all the time about, what's the advantages of carbon fiber and things like that. Well, if you're tearing your drag washers up, that's the advantage, is it's a tougher material. But if you're not tearing them up, then the materials that they originally designed for this, as long as they're functional and haven't deteriorated. We mentioned drying out and cracking on leather washers. Felt washers is kind of the same thing. Felt washers will dry and crack if you don't take care of them and keep them oiled. But if they're doing fine, you don't need to do anything other than what we just did here. Make sure they're clean, inspect them, and go ahead and do it again. Now, I don't know what Tim was doing here, but this part wasn't cleaned. Most of the reel wasn't cleaned, but that's okay. We're taking care of that now. Then there's one more thing. Your anti-reverse dog has got a little bit of stuff on there as well, so let's get that off. If you don't get it off, it's not going to ride smoothly in and out of the the teeth on that gear, and if it doesn't ride smoothly, it could fail, and we noticed that it wasn't doing a good job when we came back to take that side plate off. There you go. A little bit of grease onto the side case bearing, a little bit of grease onto the eccentric, a little bit of oil in the slot under there, and just work it. Now you could put oil in through this side of it if you wanted to, take the screw out, but if you do it that way, it'll also work in there. All right, time for reassembly then. We have the two springs. They call them clutch springs, I think is the actual term for that. We have the yoke, a little bit of grease onto the yoke. We have the pinion gear, or spool gear as some people call it. So if you have questions on this reel or any reel in particular, you're trying to figure out how something works or why it's stuck or something to that effect, why it failed on you, if you leave that in the comment section, I do try to answer those questions to the best of my ability. I may not have the answers to all of them. I may not be familiar with your reel, but if you have a question, ask and I'll see if I can help you with that. The bridge goes in next. You insert the bridge by pushing down on the yoke assembly and then rolling the bridge about halfway. This one has a flat spring. You want to make sure next that you put the dog in the upward position, and that dog has got to be in front of that red washer that we saw before, otherwise you'll trap it in the main gear. Then we have that flat spring. That flat spring is, before I do that, the flat spring is going to lay on here, on the dog. There's a post here, it goes behind the post, and then the other section rests in this this slot here, this little cavity, so it kind of loops that way. Alright, let's try this. Sometimes it takes more than one. These are reusable, but every now and then they come with a little memory or a bend in it from having sat there for a while. And sometimes you just have to kind of be patient and work with it. Not necessarily the easiest thing to do, which maybe that's why Penn kind of went to the coil, but there you go. That's the flat spring installed. Trying to get this for the camera. I have a piece of it laying on top of the dog. It wraps around this post, and the other piece is over here along that side plate. Once you do that, rotate the bridge the rest of the way. Make sure that your pinion gear comes through. A couple of turns on that. Don't tighten it down completely, but a couple of turns. We have two more. I didn't mention before, but there's two fully threaded screws and two partially threaded screws. The partially threaded screws go up top if you're holding the side plate this way. That part that's not threaded is actually where those springs ride. And that prevents those spring coils from getting trapped or catching on the threads of it. Fully threaded screw goes below. Kind of going northeast southwest here. If you have a little bit of an issue with that spring catching back off the other springs, you can see it's just a little bit out here, so just take that those two off. That's why I don't tighten them all the way down. They're pretty much a precision set, and sometimes just a little tough to get them in correctly. That should do it there. First time I did it, I thought it was impossible. I knew that the bridge came off the reel and couldn't understand why the screws weren't going back in. And even here, we're having a little bit of difficulty with the swing on that one for whatever reason. This one's being particularly troublesome. There we go. All right, one more to go up top here. Then we're going to tighten them all down, and we're going to go in opposite directions, kind of northeast, southwest, to tighten them down. And before you go any further at this point, we should be able to turn this reel. And we got a fully functioning reel again. The one part that we weren't able to grease when we were doing this was the top here. That's going to slide under the bridge plate, so get some grease on that. Go ahead and clean the inside and outside of this little ferrule. That puts the, that's kind of the support for the star adjuster, which comes next. So it looks like the issue may have been with the anti-reverse dog installation, but I can't say for certain, because when you take that reel apart, that anti-reverse dog comes out by its nature. But I'm going to guess maybe that was the cause there. We also found a funky little bush fix in this reel. When that side plate broke off, somebody had the ingenuity to figure out that they could substitute a set screw if they tapped it in lieu of that little stud that's missing or broke off to secure the side plate. So that's kind of neat. And I'm always learning something. It wasn't as designed, but it works like it was designed. So if I ever run into that problem again, I may have a solution. I'm not very good at tapping. I understand it. I get it. I don't do well at it. I'm not a machinist. Okay, a little bit of grease onto the side here. Let's take this reel, put that back in. When you put the reel in, it's always good to have it in the off position for the free spool. That way you eliminate any tension that's on there. Let's line that up. Got a lot going on this reel here. We don't have the side bearing is way out of adjustment here. You can see there's a gap here that needs to be closed down. That gap corresponds with the gap here in the spool. Let's get that set screw back in before we lose that. Kind of like that. That's kind of neat. There's another little trick that I've seen much more common, of course. That's when you lose this screw over here, you can substitute a standard screw for that. And actually, if you have a bridge plate screw for this reel, it's the same thread. You just have to cut down the screw a little bit. So one of these fully threaded screws on here will also fit the hole over here. All right, let's get this spool adjusted properly. And when you adjust the spool on a Penn reel, there should just be a little knock going on. If you can't move the spool side to side with play, then you have it over adjusted. All right, we got it there. Got a little clicker going. All right, Tim, you're going fishing again. There you go. Penn 100. Problem identified. Little bush fix found. It was kind of neat. And ready to go fishing. So I hope you've enjoyed that. If you did, please like the video. If you want to see more, please subscribe. And if you have a reel like Tim that needs to be repaired, or perhaps you started working on one and you got in trouble, and now it's sitting on a table somewhere because you can't figure it out, well, I repair reels by mail, and if you're interested, you can contact me on the business card that follows by sending me an email, and I'll be happy to provide you with repair information. So this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Thank you for watching.